We are live. We are live. What's up, Trip? How you doing, man?
Hey man, how's it going? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I know we're having some fun technical issues over there.
Yeah, I have this Scarlett mic that usually works pretty well, but as you can see, I don't know. My room looks kind of a little bare here. So I'm redoing the office, so I repainted these walls and just kind of get a fresh start. I moved my desk around, but now I can't
Yeah,
reconnect the mic, so we're just using the regular audio here.
you sound fine. Well, while we get a little time here to get a few people on, I'll just say welcome, everyone. I am Scott Melker, and doing these live streams, trying to get the ball rolling a bit more. A lot of fun to have the opportunity to talk to people on a more regular basis outside the context of the podcast, where obviously it's pre-recorded and we can't be really hyper, relevant to that day and things like that. And also just a really good chance to get the perspective of other traders. I should mention definitely that this stream is sponsored by two of my longtime sponsors, Voyager and Roundly X. Voyager is the on-ramp, off-ramp that I use personally for getting in and out of dollars. It's just an incredible platform because you can trade and also make 9% interest on USDC and like over 6% on Bitcoin. It's kind of absurd that you can trade, make that kind of interest. And then Roundly X, I've been using both these platforms literally since like the day they started. It's crazy. Roundly X is just the easiest way to round up your small transactions into Bitcoin. And the two of them actually integrate together. So it automatically buys on Voyager and you earn interest as you're doing it. It's pretty absurd. And so two of my favorite platforms by far. So I don't know if you got all your sound going there. It seems like we're good to go. So I think we should just start with Bitcoin, right? Because this thing is absurd right now.
Thing that
Right?
doesn't stop barreling up, right?
I mean, you and I talked yesterday, and it was kind of like when retrace. It's getting
Oh
to
man,
those sort of critical.
yesterday, the thing kicked my ass. I tried to buy 1330 and I had a liquidity pool there basically. So I think it was going to go below 13K based on some of the momentum that it was showing, a number of other things. And of course it rips down to like 12,770 and rips right back up. So I'm not in any leverage longs of Bitcoin right now, unfortunately. I kind of just turned the screens off if something doesn't really go my way like that yesterday, where as much as I wanted to jump back in, I was just like, that was poor execution. But it is what it is. It's part of the game trading. So I was in Ethereum longs. I'm out of those. Didn't really make a good decision on those either. But yeah, I just had given back a lot of UPNL and a couple other trades this year, and I just wanted to lock in profit. It's running away from me aggressively right now, so it's kind of look for pullback season. But it is what it is. It's part of the game. So I assume your Ethereum longs are doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm not unhappy, but like it's interesting you kind of talk about that though. I always had a rule, which I kind of have violated in with time, but I always had a rule to avoid myself from revenge trading and FOMOing that I would close a chart for 24 hours if I closed a trade, whether it was a win or a loss. Like
Yeah.
it didn't matter if it was a win or a loss. I was just like kind of like I don't need to look at this again. But then
Yeah.
obviously you start like trading publicly on Twitter and sharing stuff, and I'm just in a position where I can't close a Bitcoin chart or an Ethereum chart generally for 24 hours because somebody's always asking me what the hell is going on or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think even though it went your way this time, next time if you re-entered, you would like get wrecked 3 times in a row as it like
Yeah, I mean, if
drops
you
down,
look
right?
at the volatility right now, right, for these margin traders, I mean, price went from what, 13.3 to 12.7 to like 13.7 in a matter of less than 48 hours. Like incredible volatility to trade. Um, it's not as, it just didn't go my way yesterday. I didn't want to jump back in and have something worse happen. That's basically.
Yeah.
So
Do you mind that you want to share your screen and take a look at the Bitcoin chart, what you're looking at?
sure. So I'm not that good at Zoom, basically,
At the
but
bottom, it should say share screen, and theoretically, you should be able to do it. But
let me
at the
just
bottom of our window, there's a green thing that says share screen. Hopefully, that should work for you.
sure. Okay. So it's asking to system preferences, Zoom. everything, man. So
Yeah. There should just be a big glaring button on the bottom of our window that says share screen, but maybe not.
it says Zoom will not be able to record the contents of your screen until it's
That's fine. You just ignore all that stuff. Hey guys, are you not entertained by our amazing professionalism and screens? There you go. You can, doesn't matter. Just deny that. Doesn't matter for recording purposes. So yeah, I see your screen is good. Have at it, dude.
Yeah, so these are 4K monitors. I don't know how the resolution is for everyone. Why don't I zoom in a little bit? It's always hard to see. That's an ongoing joke, as we know from our Discord about being a fighter pilot.
I've been making fun of the size of your charts for, I think, 4 years now. 3.5 years, probably.
Right, exactly. So, all right. So, I mean, I have Coinbase and, BitMEX, XBT here. I mean, where do we start here? The thing's just going vertical, right? But I think, one huge inflection point obviously was this channel, right? You broke out of this huge channel here, and like here was the chance to long, essentially. Um, After that, it's kind of been straight up, and you're getting to this point here where okay, we have this like consolidation, and as we know in massive bull moves, right, bull market moves, that it doesn't often give you a retrace. I think everyone was kind of looking for 12.5, call it that, or even like this level down here. But as we can see, these wicks are just showing us that, well, every dip was bought up aggressively, right? And now we're obviously going towards our 2019 highs. So this is high block. I don't know if you guys can see this that well.
Yeah, we can see it, and it's
Right.
awesome. I'm glad you're sharing this because I know that this is like one of your main tools.
Yeah, I really like this stuff. SR is one thing, fibs are another thing, but like, I share a lot of stuff on Twitter. I think like almost this play-by-play analysis doesn't mean that I'm taking every trade that I'm showing, like just giving data, almost information, right? One, because I like these guys, I'm kind of trying to help them get more users, but two, this whole concept of liquidity analysis. Okay, well, like let's just look at kind of this area here, right? This was, you have your highs here, and this was the resting liquidity above that, right? So to me, these are clusters, and as you can see, they're 50x short liquidations. The blue ones are 100. So it was obvious to me that price was going to come back into it, but when it comes back into it, so taking shorts on like these liquidity clusters can often be a good move. Now you say, well, what are some other things that might make you think that it's looking to retrace? Well, another thing that I tend to look at a lot is neobutane, right? This is showing us essentially spot versus perp, right? So you can see where a premium or discount is. And when the perp gets above the spot aggressively, it's telling you derivatives are trying to make a really big push here. Well, you can see that, we have this spike right here. And what was that? Well, it was also the liquidity run and your retrace, right? So these scalp moves, not necessarily, they're counter trend, but if you're a scalper just looking at liquidity levels, like that's something that I've been doing a lot of, right? So for example, yesterday, here, look at this, right? This just wicked out all of these 50x longs on this wick. And what did it do? I mean, if you put your bids here at 1270, or 12.8, you're basically catching the bottom. And the liquidity has just been sourced, right? So you run your top side liquidity. Okay, well, price is kind of running out of steam here. What happens? Boom. Well, we run this. Now we're moving back up. This was the big kind of lick run. And if you want to kind of call this I guess you could call this like a range low. Well, it's also your range low, right? It's easier to say this all in hindsight. What I did was I tried to buy, at the time, it was around here. It was like this, it was 100x liquidation, I think, right here. Because to me, this was a low that shouldn't have been broken. This candle right here is
Right.
insanely bullish. So if I could get filled here, right, on 1330 and have my stop below this low, and I'm shooting for a 13.6 or like a 13.9, well, I mean, if we're just looking at, what that is essentially on your long, where was it, right? Like, it's so hard just to see now because the thing has gone just up in a vertical line. Call it this, right? I mean, if it was like you're, 12.9, right? And you're playing for, let's just say here. Yeah, say you're playing for the highs. It's almost a 7, right? Whereas like there was a liquidation at 13,165 that I also saw. Look how much it changes from a risk reward ratio, looking at where you want to place your stop underneath that swing low. So these are ways that I kind of look at trades in terms of scalping liquidity. This wick, I mean, it ran the low aggressively. It kind of changed my opinion about the market somewhat, thinking that really, like, I didn't think we were going to go that low, right? Given like looking at Coinbase and some of these spot walls, that price was being held above 13 pretty aggressively. I was looking for 13 to hold, and I got stopped out and the thing ripped in my face. But there's always another trade. Yeah, that was a sick trade.
Yeah, so I have a question, I guess, about high block, and I look at it occasionally too, since you turned me on to it. Like, if people are using that or looking,
like this is a top lick right here, right?
Oh yeah. Like, so my question was, like, do you think that generally the 100Xs always get run, right? I mean, it's like an extremely high hit rate. 50s, it seems like, are a pretty reliable place for finding tops and bottoms. Do you go below that? Like, do you check the 25X liquidation?
Yeah, so I think it's important to remember that these are theoretical liquidations in the sense of they're certain standard deviations away from the market order themselves, which would calculate on a percentage basis where that liquidity or that liquidation would happen based on that leverage, right? But they do work incredibly well, I must say.
They do. Yeah, they do.
So if you look at the next one, right, like here, so the green is 25X, right? So these right here, like, you can just see based on looking at, okay, we just took out all of this liquidity. Like, that is massive, right? So now you have some 13.5s, which are 100X longs. You have your 50X. So there is liquidity below. So, in theory, if you're going to dip, is it safe to say it's good bidding here? As you can see, it also kind of lines up with somewhat of an SR flip, right? So you start to piece together the liquidity component. You're looking at, your basic SR in your chart, right? And then, maybe you're even throwing on, and I know that you look at fibs, right? Like, okay, here, let's just take it off this low and always get it backwards. Well, a 38.2, a 50, a 61.8, like, okay, that's, what was that, 13.1?
Yeah,
right?
something like that.
So maybe you're going to run like all this liquidity. Maybe it doesn't take out that one, but if it did, this is your 61.8 Fibonacci retracement off of this swing low, if you're considering this a swing high. And where's that? Well, it's a pretty nice SR flip. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, but a way to look at it is spreading bids here, possibly. And now you have more confluence to an idea versus just something on a chart. So that's really where this liquidity analysis has helped me to give more context to why price might be moving in a certain direction and why it might stop at certain places on the chart, outside of just your basic support and resistance.
I know another tool that I've seen you use successfully is funding rate. Can you talk about that a bit, or do you still look at it?
Yeah, I do. So that is So high block kind of like changed.
I mean, man, look at all that green right there. I mean, that's a short squeeze, right? I mean, when you look at it like that, that's just plowing through shorts.
Right. So now it's like, it's hard to short this thing right now, right? But like, this is somewhat of a reasonable area to maybe take a breather. One, because you just ran the top 50x short leg that I had that's on there. Your next, you're getting into your 25s. I mean, when you start hitting these 25s, like, it just means it's further away from the, you know, the market entry where that price gets, where it gets liquidated. That's like a very good indication of the market is trending pretty hard, right? Because it's barreling up and it's not stopping. But this area right here, I mean, maybe it is going to take a breather. It's too hard to say right now. It's not really something to jump in front of, because look, where are you going to put your short here, and then where does your stop go, right? It's like it's hard to figure out the risk parameters there. Funding rates, yeah, I do look at funding rates. You know, in terms of BitMEX, it's still relevant in my mind. I mean, this is essentially kind of also looking at funding rates, right? This neobutane, but you can look at the, I'm trying to find the high block. They changed it to like these widgets. So you can look at, here, why don't we just go through this so you guys can see all this stuff that I look at. And net positions heat map. I like this one a lot. This is where, you know, you'll see me talk about, there's a block of longs here, there, right? So this is showing us the you know, net positions heat map, and it's actually open interest. And then you can look at net longs and net shorts, and the net longs are categorized as high leverage. So I believe it's 25x and above. So you can see here, right? If we're looking at, let's run this, sorry. You can see here at, was just above 13.4, 13.43, that there is a block of longs. And you can see that the yellow is corresponding to, you know, contract size up here, right? So 4 million and above. And the purple block, right, is when they're taken out, right? So you can see here that they came in. Now, if we're looking at shorts right here, so let's refresh this, run that. Well, what happened here? Well, these got taken out, and you can see that obviously a lot closed right here. So that is price barreling up. So you can see it visually, the large clusters of orders being taken out. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So, you know, if we look back at our, not the liquidation thing, this called liquidation levels, right? This should be a fun one to look at. I haven't looked at this one yet. Yeah, right. So again, the chart I was showing you with the circles, well, now you're getting more detail about the actual potential contract sizes. So here at 13.5, well, you just nuked a ton of shorts, right? You can see all the bubbles, and they correspond, oh, down here, sorry. So right, you can see the color, 50x, purple, 25x. So as we were saying, that's a really powerful move. So those green dots that I was showing you, that's essentially these bubbles on this chart. So you're getting a lot of granular data around the liquidity levels. So again, here's that top one, and where's that? 14. So that would essentially be running the 2019 high. And as you can see, we hit that top one at 1376. So right now, I mean, there's nothing glaring about this neobutane, right? Let's just look at it on a smaller scale here. Not that one. Sorry. I got the daily chart here. Yeah. I mean, this stuff's like a video game. There's just so much going on right now.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So you can already see this actually coming down, right? And look, what happened here? Well, it went negative. And what happens when it goes negative? Well, that's when you get these massive snapbacks, because it's telling you, in essence, that one party is offsides, and this is aggressively shorting into a support zone right here, and there's more buyers. And so that is going to initiate, those massive short squeezes. And we've seen it, right? Look at the sustained negative funding here, right? This was essentially just saying, okay, people keep trying to short it, and there's something really telling me that this is going up a lot more. And as you can see, we get these impulses, and then we can see here what happens. It's just like adding fuel to the fire. It's funny, it's called neobutane. But yeah, so, right now it's like, all right, if prices to come back down into that level we just talked about, maybe 13.2 or something, 13.3, and you start to see this go negative, and you have sourced some of this liquidity, right? Here's 100x, 13,489. Maybe you're taking out these. It would be very bearish to start taking out now these 25x on the opposite side, as we were talking about how that's like a very powerful indication. So, and here you can see it here, right?
Yeah, that would effectively be seeing longs get squeezed back down.
So look at that. As we were talking about, that could be a potential top at that top liquidation. Well, look, I mean, it's like, let's see if it goes to these down here and takes them out, right? This is actually going to be pretty interesting. So yeah, we're kind of retracing here. Now, I hope that gives people like a little more grasp on, everything I tweet and everything I'm looking at, and how it's kind of putting these pieces of the puzzle together, right? More so than just looking at, support resistance on a chart.
What are you thinking on a macro level is contributing to this bullish movement that we've been seeing? I mean, certainly for the past couple of days and weeks, but I mean, basically since the bottom of the market.
Yeah. I would say that there is clearly a shift from the institutional side coming. Like I definitely will eat the words I said about Michael Saylor. Just one, I was like, he put almost this entire cash balance into this. That's just like crazy. Maybe you put in 25%, right? Well, the guy
I'm interviewing him tomorrow for the podcast, actually.
I know that guy's really making the rounds, huh?
That is awesome.
Adopted by the Bitcoin community, and I'm pretty sure he was the one to coin the Hornets phrase. I've never heard that before. But yeah, and congrats to you for really launching this whole podcast and getting the guests that you've had on in such a short amount of time. Makes me feel pretty cool, actually, because these people who you've had on are really legit individuals.
But even though yours was so early when we did ours, it's still one of the most popular episodes ever.
That's cool. Put that on in the resume in my mind for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, macro, it's interesting. Like I wake up every day and I'm like, are we ever going to return to this sense of normalcy that people talk about? Because it's hard to watch the news. I mean, COVID's getting really bad around here again. I mean, high schools are closing, kids' sports are shutting down. I think everyone knew that it was kind of going to happen, right? You had this summertime where everyone's on their boats out, it's sunny. Now you're returning to school. A lot more people are getting back together, and you're trying to reopen the economy essentially. But there's like a real, scare going on right now. And so I think some of the traditional markets are starting to feel it, right? I think there's a bit of uncertainty around the election still. Bitcoin is not really feeling any of that. So it's interesting is it Square putting 50 million in? Is it Michael Saylor making the move? Paul Tudor Jones, going on TV talking about this, even though that's kind of been part of the narrative from a while ago now.
Right.
I've had people call me and tell me that they're buying Bitcoin because they think the narrative has changed. And these are longtime traditional finance guys who, just bought a ton of Bitcoin at 12.1. And
Yeah, I think we call them haters usually.
But, I was having the same conversation with the person a week before he bought it. And, I was saying to him, like, there's things kind of going on in crypto that the general public doesn't really see yet. And I used some of the examples I just talked about. And I also spoke about, Ethereum. And it was like, yeah, but there's better places to put your money. And then sure enough, a week later, yeah, I just bought a ton of Bitcoin at 12.1. I'm like, well, what changed in a week? And for them to say, there's this couple people that they think the narrative has changed around Bitcoin is pretty interesting. So I think it's a combination of things. I think also just, a lot of the announcements around the world where countries are looking at the digital currency option, right? So the whole society is moving towards digitalization, and whether it's cryptocurrency, blockchain, or countries putting their currencies on that type of platform, optically it all moves the needle, and Bitcoin is the biggest one. And there still is the argument that there's only so many, and when people start to like figure that out, which I think is happening right now, like as you can see, like this has become a land grab for coins essentially. That's what's taking place in the chart right now. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on, but obviously the recent news data points are a pretty big component of it. And there was data, floating around, like you just see coins being taken off exchanges, right? Well, that is a pretty big sign that the ask or sell side, right, is shrinking, right? Because people are locking these coins up. So it's a component of people realizing that like this is the time, coins being taken off exchanges. Two of the big derivatives players, obviously, BitMEX and OKEX, going through some situations where spot is driving the market more so than derivatives, which is kind of what's been going on. And that hasn't been so much the case in the past, but it's very apparent right now.
What's really interesting actually is before the weekend, and there was the drop, kind of a small drop, but before the weekend, there was a huge inflow into exchanges again from miners and whale wallets, which usually means like it's really a top, but it was absorbed.
I saw that.
And so it's weird to see it absorbed. And then we see that now, like, there's by far the highest amount of whale wallets in history, like, 1,000 plus Bitcoin wallets are at an all-time high. I mean, people are stacking up right now.
And, it's like in 2017 or any other time, if the coin's going to exchanges and being sold, and then you equate what the buying power is needed at $13,000 coin. Well, when you have players like Michael Saylor, Square, Paul Tudor Jones, maybe a lot of large family offices, like they can absorb that sell pressure more so than a retail. And I think that is probably where people are saying that the narrative changed. Like there's bigger players coming in, and that's just a lot more capital that's being put behind the demand, especially on like spot exchanges. I mean, watch Coinbase very closely. Like it's getting bought up at such a fast clip, and it's from deep pockets.
Yeah, I think MicroStrategy, I don't know if it was 400 or 4,000, but they did it in, I think, 4,000 separate buy orders. So it's not like if you want to fill a $500 million worth of Bitcoin that you can just go market buy on, Femex.
Yeah, the way they did it was like all the really micro transactions, right? Just like 1 second after the other in like a weekend, right? So I think that also, and I watched his interview with, was it Pomp? I think, I forget.
Yeah, he did one with Pomp for sure.
Where they're like, that was also another maybe an aha moment for any sort of institution saying, because the whole thing has been like, well, it's the liquidity. Well, there's plenty of freaking liquidity. Maybe not on the sell side, but they did it in a weekend basically, right? Square bought 50 million when? In a couple days or in a day or something like that?
Yeah, 50 million's easier. Not easy, but easier. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the PayPal deal is structured and how much Bitcoin they need to buy to service their customers.
Yeah, that was also another thing, right? Do they have to go into the market and buy it to participate in that? I haven't looked into that as much. I just
I
saw
think
that.
they're going to partner with someone. I mean, I know there was the BitGo partnership they were talking about, but some others, I have no idea. But it's funny, we've heard this narrative like so many times. We're seeing it actually happen here. But remember Backed, and it was like physically delivered futures are going to have to buy every Bitcoin in existence to be able to like make this happen. And obviously we didn't really see that. But what we do see, I mean, we have all of these, and like kind of underlying all of it is Grayscale. Like they've bought more Bitcoin than has been mined this entire year. So now we know at least for a fact that demand well exceeds what's ever being mined again, right? Whatever's being mined is going to be absorbed immediately, and it's not a question. So that dips into existing supply for anyone who wants to buy it.
There was some data point on Grayscale and like BlockFi today or something with 5% of the did you see that?
I can't remember exactly what it was. I know that they've basically bought every Ethereum and Bitcoin being mined, period, this entire year. And that's been happening since before and more. So the demand there, and that's retail, the demand there is tremendous.
Yeah. And they're not just going buying, like they have commits to where like they actually do have to go and buy that. So it's demand from the customer base where they need to go fulfill it, essentially.
Correct. It's not like they're just stockpiling it in case.
Yeah, they're not just like speculatively buying like a ton of Bitcoin. Like it's a fund. Like it's money going in from their clients who are demanding it. So
it's funny. I see a funny comment here in the section. It says, I see liquidation levels in that chart. I think price should go everywhere. Those levels are all over the chart.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look,
you can share your, I had taken your screen share off just because we were talking. But if you want to share your screen again, then you can.
Yeah, I mean, let me just get this here. Let's see.
But it is valid. You need to know how to read it. It's kind of like you look at, everyone has their own charting style and their own stuff. And I mean, you remember my old charts. They used to look like a Pink Floyd laser light show. I had so many lines on my charts in 2017. It was comical, but I knew what they were.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just trying to get this screen share back up here.
Oh, my bad. Shouldn't have canceled you, man. I cancel cultured your screen.
It's all right. Is it up?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, look, this stuff down here, who knows if it gets hit in a trending market, like this gap here, like, yeah, I'm not really looking at this right now. I think for the purposes of, liquidity in this sense, what I was explaining is like if you're a scalper, like you can scalp these levels, right? Again, I mean, they're all over the place, but this stuff got taken out, right? And so this got taken out, right? So here's a massive gap, right? I look at the clusters, I look at the gaps. This is like, you can scroll down and probably look for some from, all the way down here. That's just like not going to get hit. It's not realistic at this point. You can stare at a chart and look at a lot of different things. I'm just kind of focusing on near-term price areas. I guess I'll answer it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note, if you're looking at 150x liquidations, you're not worrying about where price is going to be in a month.
Yeah,
it's very strictly scalpers, because anyone who's trading with that high of leverage is definitely playing a short-term position in general. Right.
And so it's just, price hunting these levels kind of back and forth. That's the way to think of it. If you're a swing trader with like, a macro view, longer time horizon, you're not necessarily focusing on this stuff, because you wouldn't really be looking at, the hourly or 4-hour chart as much. Probably looking at a daily or weekly chart.
Is there anything aside from Bitcoin that you're really watching right now? I mean, I know that you've we used to trade the hell out of altcoins, but I know that you've reduced it pretty much. I believe Ethereum and Bitcoin for your own interest, right?
Yeah, I mean, no altcoins, really, just Ethereum. I mean, this is, I sold some at 410, I sold some at 400, right? I was in from 370. And so it was so bad. It was such a bad idea to pull these orders. I had 385 and 387.
We could have rode that together.
Yeah, right. So now here we are back up here, kind of to where this, like, call it, let's just draw some lines here. Almost like a breakdown point, right? There's a retest and then boom. Okay, now we're coming back up here. I mean, if you're reclaiming this and you flip this and you start to consolidate, it's probably a good long. It's like, well, where do you want to put your stop though, right? Now you're looking at this as your potential higher low off of this, assuming we make a higher high here. I guess you could put it there, but like, these wicks, like, you can get stopped out pretty quickly, right? So Ethereum though, the way I was looking at it was just essentially, if we were going to take this, call it, this whole area right here, right? This is a 24% range. You have your range high, your range low, like clearly defined. Where's your midpoint? Well, it's around 350. Well, like, okay, here's your mid range, trade above it, come back down below it, kind of consolidate here, looking like it's going to fail. Okay, here we're making our higher low off of this. And look, you get your impulse off the mid. I think everyone thought it was breaking out here, right? So then you look for the higher low. So yeah, getting in here was sick. I was pumped because I said, if this is a 24% range, a really simple way to look at it is, well, let's just measure 24% range expansion, which is something I actually do a lot, just like where price can go. It's an easy way to do it, right? Okay, well, what is that? I mean, that, 500 almost, call it. I can't see because the Zoom thing is covering 480. So that's realistic for Ethereum in my mind, assuming everything kind of keeps going up. Or maybe not, given some of the stuff that's supposed to happen in November around, a lot of the fundamental things that ETH has been known
talking about for forever.
Yeah. And so, you have your channel. Like, this is like literally, I still don't know why I fucked that trade up, but it happened. So you bounced perfectly. Like, this is one of the most perfect SR retests. Like, this is a godwick. Like, this is like, you just got served like a gift here, right? And what do you reclaim the exact, what is that, 390 perfectly? And it's just boom. It was like trend line, everything about it was perfect. So I kind of have to live with that right now and like
look for another entry.
Yeah, maybe 397, somewhere around here. Right.
Yeah, I'm going to actually stop your share and show my Ethereum chart because it's so funny. We were looking at it so similarly. I just got to figure out which one I'm supposed to be sharing here because I might train wreck this. I think this is it. So I know I pulled it up here somewhere, but it's a different kind of slightly different idea, but similarly the same. So I took the much larger range.
Okay.
On the daily, right? So obviously your range was kind of interestingly, your range was basically the bottom half of this range that you were just talking about. So I took this kind of macro range from this high, the 480s to there. So, but that gives us confluence of what we were just talking about with our target, right? Around 480, 488 or something.
Yeah, so yours essentially would be filling out another touch of the range high. I just took it as, I used the bottom just to gauge with the target that made a lot of sense. But it is a larger range. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So basically, but interestingly, what you said, and I think people make this mistake all the time. So I wanted to clarify it, and I wrote about it in the newsletter today. So you have obviously this low, then you have the, the high, and then you have a higher low, and then a slightly only, but a higher high. And then, this low, and then you have this higher high. but like a lot of people are talking about this being a higher low, but exactly what you said, which is so important, that's
no, you got to make a higher high.
Exactly. That's why I made a question mark instead of a check.
Yeah. So,
because like,
so I was playing on the notion that this is the potential higher low. And, I think my stop was like 364 or something like that. Off of the 370, I forget what it was. But yeah, I mean, you make a higher high, then this is confirming bullish market structure. You have higher highs and higher lows. Like, it's super simple. But to consider this a higher low yet, I mean, look, Ethereum stopped at a very logical level. If you took a fib off the high of that for whatever, right, and you ran it down to the
basically
low,
the range, basically this range, right?
61.8 to a T, 420 retrace.
And it's 420, which is cool.
So, you look at what that is like. Well, if you take your check mark and you look at some of the wicks on Ethereum over on the left-hand side of the chart, like they're matching up. There's a lot of confluence why Ethereum stopped there. So is it going to go make a higher high? It could, for sure, but it also could just be
Yeah. And also, it's to be clear, like I'm using wicks. I mean, there's an argument to be said that this is not a higher low because obviously the closed. If you looked at this on a line chart, it would be different, but you just eliminate the ones in the middle and you still, have your this one, and then up. I mean, my idea for the trade that I took yesterday, and I bought between basically 395 and down to like 385 at order spread, was this little high right here, this support, which it broke, whatever, and then just the EQ of this range. I mean, the reason I like this range so much is like starting here. I mean, look at this perfect rejection. I mean, there's so many perfect rejections at this dashed line. So yeah. I figure the first retest of that is support, which 100%. Is here, is like, how can you, that's a dream entry. You may be wrong, but it's a dream entry. And listen, I'm like putting wide stops now in these positions all the way down. I just don't want to even accounting for a wick below here, maybe 350, something like that. I mean, I'm taking smaller positions to account for it because I really want exposure to this.
Yeah. And it's like, when people always talk about these SR flips, right? And bidding the retest, you got to just play this like range. You can't start picking like exact price points because it could be way below. It could be like above it, right? It's too hard to say of it. Because I love when everyone says, this is the SR flip, right? It's either going to get front run or blow right through it. It's like, well,
yeah, it's never perfect.
It can hit in the middle too. So, I mean, that retest though, it was pretty absurd. Like it was.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but like if you're trading this with high leverage, you stopped out. Trading 388, you might have stopped out even at 382 or 381. So, that's why to me, it's like, might as well just take a slightly smaller position, widen the stop and, have it. I actually want to look at Bitcoin now because this is interesting. Actually, this is the Bitcoin. So there's a tool on TradingView that's really cool where you can index comparable assets to 100 to kind of give you a similar look, because I was kind of discussing the notion that Bitcoin and the stock market were correlated. This is stocks. If you put them on basically the same scale, this is stocks and this is Bitcoin. So we can see that certainly since October 12th, they've been completely uncorrelated, but still this is all uncorrelated action. If you actually put them on the same scale. So as always is the case, sorry to pivot complete topics. I just happened to open the chart and it was sitting here, but yeah, this is very correlated movement, but of course it's a global economic crash.
Yeah.
And I think that we are really starting to see, if you even did believe they were correlated, we're definitely seeing a very clear indication, at least short term, that they're separating.
Yeah, and this is where crypto kind of does its thing, and we've seen these crazy moves, and it doesn't matter what else is going on. Like, it is the sole focus, and it's barreling up right now.
Here, that's funny. This is the same, basically, unless I think I have it indexed to 100 now. Yeah. So this is Bitcoin and the dollar. So perfectly inverse correlation. I mean, it's absurd. If you want to look for a narrative, that's probably a better one. I'm going to pull up Bitcoin. I mean, okay. So now, listen, I could totally see somebody shorting right now. I wouldn't do it. But this is the monthly chart, and this 13,863 on Coinbase on the monthly chart. This is would be the highest monthly close of all time if we close above that.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had a perfect retest of it here. And I mean, look at that, 13.8 down to 3,008 on the first retest of that line as resistance.
So it's like, where do you think it pulls back to? Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously we have the 12.3 here, but I think if you pull back probably to the daily, I don't know. That's not the one I want to look at it on. Maybe over here. Let me see. That's not it either. But I can look at it on here regardless. I would say this is an old chart, not drawn, but I mean, I know that I've had 12.5-ish marked for a while. So again, you look at it as a range, but there, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, maybe even back to the top, retest this supply that took some time to as demand, so somewhere between the 11.8 to 12.5, in my opinion, if I was going to trade it. I mean, I have orders spread all over here, and I'm just like licking my lips, hoping we get that retrace. I mean, this thing is running hot. RSI is 84.
Yeah, I mean, I know people hate TD. But like the 3-day has one, like the 2-day had one, like there are some signs of exhaustion. It's like an instance where better wait for like a breakdown and a retest of a level that you're watching versus just trying to blindly short it at this point.
I know that I have, I think it's this chart. I'm not sure. So you guys can bear with me, and it's taking a while to open, but I think this has TD already pulled up on it. Of course, it's going to take a week to open, but yeah. So, I mean, there's that daily 9 right there.
Which got nuked. But if you pull...
Maybe. But this is what I was looking at yesterday. This is exactly what I said to that 12.5 level. This is on Femex, so it wasn't 12.488. It was 12.5 or whatever.
Right, so pull up a 3-day. Just change it to 3 days.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
You have a 9. I mean... And then there was a 9 on the 2-day, right? So there is some sort of exhaustion point coming. It's just, why I'm not trying to short it. I just rather just bid the pullbacks.
That's exactly what I've been saying. I don't want to like try to catch a top. I mean, you talk about catching falling knives. It's no different when you're trying to short the top, right? And so, yeah, I mean, this is something that you definitively want to be long. It's just a matter of, I think, finding the right time to do it. I'm trying to see. I also had Ethereum Bitcoin pulled up, so it's kind of interesting because it's gotten kind of wrecked.
Yeah,
there is a potential. This has to curve very definitively up, but it is really oversold and has a potential nice bullish divergence with RSI. So I'm watching that. I would take this.
If you pull up a daily or like a weekly on this, you can see some pretty key zones. Call it that.
Do you want to share? You want to share your screen back?
Yeah, let me.
Okay, go ahead and pull it up. Easier than me trying to predict what you're trying to draw.
Yeah, right.
Or draw what you're trying to talk about more.
BTC. All right, where's the screen here? All right. Okay, so I had drawn this thinking that ETH BTC actually had bottomed and we weren't going to go to this area right here, right? So let's just go over this chart, how I look at it. So this is a 3-day ETH BTC, right? So just kind of break it down. Like to me, this is like a range right here, and this is, call it under over, right? It's like sourcing liquidity below a range, and then what is this? A reclaim, and we can see.
So sort of a deviation.
Yeah, everyone's got different terms.
Yeah.
Right. It's we're all trying to make the charts like pretty have this story on it, but that's how I look at it, right? You just take your range high, range low, your midpoint 31514, and like, what are we doing here? Well, we're losing it. Now we're losing the midpoint. So when that stuff happens, as we've seen, like, do you go test the range low? Yeah, or at least close to it. And where's like, the most logical point to where this thing might find support? Well, it's like this right here, right? This zone, call it right there. So you can see this impulse candle. I mean, this was the top clearly. We can see that this is a bullish engulfing off of this and, spurred the move up. So the fact that we've kind of broken this, diagonal trend line, we'll just go to a day chart here. Sorry, there's like some lawn people outside. You can hear a lawnmower. So, dial it in. Well, then I'm looking at, this kind of this area, maybe.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking, right? You're not going to get the perfect one, but this is all fair game to me. This 0.02 like 7 to 0.29, right? We've already kind of broken down here, right? So are you going to get one of these like really aggressive wicks, or is it just going to be boom, bought up, right? And then I think reclaiming, this area, right? Call this like point of breakdown, call it that. I think it'll give you more confirmation that this is actually going to continue up. And, we've tested this, we've tested this, we've tested this, like, resistance can only hold so long, right? So that next move, you probably do get that larger move. And, what it coincides with, if it's all this Ethereum phase 0 coming and, the staking and all the things behind it, then fine. But the chart is telling you something too. So
funny. All that price action since August is so ugly. It's like 17 head and shoulders all wrapped into one weird pattern. It's so strange.
Right. So I'm pretty bullish on it. I think you're gonna get one last flush out, right? And another thing, like it doesn't need to just V bottom, like rip up, right? It could just develop a base here, right? And then slowly move up. The speed of it is hard to tell. I do know people who look at the Ichimoku cloud, Zorn being one of them, Captain Cole. Whether it's a key June or whatever it is, like this is a key level, right? And then there's things called edge to edges. So someone who trades the cloud, it's basically going from one side to the other. And so that is essentially your target. And that, it's up in this 0.05 area. And here you can see that there's stops here. Like obviously this is a big one because this was the start of something very big down. So yeah, each BTC, I think it's going to get pretty interesting soon. And, being long Ethereum at the same time, that would be great.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully it'll last. I'm feeling pretty good about the position for now, but on the USD pair, obviously, if Bitcoin falls off a little cliff or retraces, I might not be too thrilled, even if that pair is holding. I see you pulled up a chart of SPX here. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Like we're flirting with, we almost lost this, like this high, right? That's not good because this is just saying that like, this is almost just like a bearish retest and a lower high. It's not yet, but if you pull up I look at the daily, right? I've had this marked out for a while, this box. And one thing that I like to look at are the moving averages. Well, you're now losing the 50-day moving average, right? That's not bullish, right? We traded above it. Now we're coming back down. Like losing that, now I'm starting to expect, this like 3260, 3250 area, right? I don't think it's going to go down to the 200-day moving average, but I'm expecting the S&P to come back down into this trend line at some point. Do I think it runs this low? No, I don't. I think it probably settles in this 3250 to 32, call it 70 area, right? This top, like it's a pretty big area, but losing the 50-day moving average, not bullish at all in my mind. And there's so many cross currents going on in the market between the election, the pandemic, like COVID is definitely ramping back up. yes, there's more testing, which is good, but it's still saying that it's very apparent in societies. So there's still fear in that regard. And yeah, I just think that, there's a bit of uncertainty, and when that happens, people start selling.
Markets hate uncertainty, and we have an absolute, shit show of uncertainty between elections, COVID, obviously the actual economy versus the market, global economic slowdown and things like that. I mean, it's hard to be confident in any side. And I mean that, I think that this looks topped as well. I'm surprised. I mean, I thought that maybe the White House would do whatever they could to rip markets into the election in the coming weeks. But yeah, it definitely looks weak there when you show it. And I have a similar view. So I see you're pulling up gold here. You want to take a look at that?
Yeah. So gold topped on like a weekly 9 too, but also just like I've had this gold chart for a very long time. I was turning it into a 3-day because this asset has been, I mean, it really started, if you want to talk about higher lows and higher highs, market structure, like it went on a parabolic move, right? And so it kind of like broke essentially, here, right? And this is the low that's been holding it. Like, was this just the run of the low? And this is like your kind of like your double bottom? Because I think once it gets above this red line, then it's going to start to move. And, just like you talked about with the dollar and Bitcoin, well, fine. Like Bitcoin's always had this hard asset narrative with it's a store of value. So is gold going to kind of catch up to Bitcoin, call it that, with that similar narrative right now? That's kind of something that I'm watching as well. I always watch the gold chart because there are pockets in time when the correlations are really helpful if you're trading a short time frame and you're scalping around kind of macro influencing Bitcoin. Like at a time, the S&P was incredible to trade with Bitcoin. Like having the chart up next to it was great. Same with gold. There's times where these are really beneficial things to watch. You just kind of have to be on top of it and understand when correlation has run its course and when it's working, when it's not working.
Yeah, and it's always interesting, you have to be very good at it, and you have to understand exactly what time frame to look at and how it's working. Because I mean, generally, it's a useful tool when they're running together. But like if you're looking at a Bitcoin chart, you can basically trade on the Bitcoin chart without necessarily having that SPX chart pulled up as well. It just might give you confluence if something happens for an hour or for a scalp or something, what might happen in the next hour. I never found them to be so useful personally on larger time frames, but it was interesting to see,
not
the minute that futures would open or something, you would see Bitcoin react or something like that. And that's
larger time frames. It's it's not as good, but like I will say, there's been times when gold moved and Bitcoin lagged, and that.
Yeah, for sure.
You could get in front of a Bitcoin trade because you were watching the gold chart, right? Whether it was a big impulse in gold, and what are the reasons for that? Whether it's algo driven, I don't know. That's a whole other thing. But I've benefited from watching gold a lot, trading Bitcoin next to it. Not so much now, but in the past I have.
I'm just looking at your chart now. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Right now, it's just not something that I'm watching. Again, the correlations don't last forever. If you can pick up on them and use them while they last, they can, but understand that like it's not going to work forever. So you just have to recognize that. There's a couple of people that on Twitter who are good about the correlation stuff too, and that when they see it change in the first day, you're like, yeah, well, it's 1 day, and then it's 2 days, right? So I think it was the Avi from Block Tower.
Ari Paul, yeah, Ari Paul from Block Tower, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Avi Feldman, they're trading.
Oh yeah, sorry,
He looks at that stuff because I think he tweeted like, we're decoupling from the S&P, and then a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, which was pretty good. So
yeah, he's right.
So
interesting. It looks like that dip we were watching when you had the liquidation chart. I mean, when you had the liquidation chart pulled up, just got bought up quick again.
Yeah, it didn't. it didn't take out the 13,490s. So, oh wow, what is this, a Darth Maul? So yeah, you had these two up. So now it's like, all right, is it going to go for 13,790 and just run topside, or are we going to get a grab here and then up? So,
I mean, if we close the monthly above that 13.8 ish, 13.8, 13.9 area, if you're looking on a monthly chart, there's literally no resistance until all-time high.
Yeah, I mean, people just
because people forget that we went from 10,000 to 20,000 and back to 10,000 basically in a month. So it's just long wicks.
Yeah, but also people look at it and they're like, "Oh, there's no orders on the sell side for any of this."
Oh, that's not true.
Meaning, like,
yeah,
sure, maybe asks move around, but like,
yeah,
it's not like every seller in the world disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Same with buyers. Like, you can't just look at a heat map and say like, all these guys just threw in the towel. There's no sellers up till, like 17,000. Like that, they're always going to be coming in and out of the market. It's just how much is the demand going to push it? Sure, they can pull walls and stuff, but those things get reloaded. They don't like disappear forever. Which is one thing that like kind of notice people talk about when they discuss heat maps and stuff, right? The walls are constantly moving.
Of course, they're telling you a story.
Yeah, 13.1. There was a wall in BitMEX yesterday when price was dropping, and I was gonna bid it, and I was like, maybe I'm gonna bid 13.30 now because the wall was pulled. Okay, well then some walls below me got pulled too. So it's like it's real time stuff happening that sellers and buyers reload. It's not like they're just gone forever. But I guess that's my point there. But yeah, on a chart, agree. I mean, the thing can just take off if it wants to.
I mean, fair. I think it's a good question. I'm just curious, like at this point, what would surprise you? Like what price action would totally surprise you right now?
You mean on the going up or down or just in general?
Either way, like what low would be like, holy shit, I didn't see this coming at all. And how high with, this going within the next week or two. I mean, I know none of us like to make wild projections. I'm just curious where all of a sudden the concepts that you're pretty married to right now become somewhat violated and you rethink it.
Okay. So like, man, this is a tough one, but let's just see kind of over here, right? I mean, this 15K area is pretty significant, I would say. Call it here, right? The bottoms of this, tops of this, the bottom of this candle, this breakdown area, right? If it shoots through 15K and just goes straight to like 17, that would shock
me. That'd be crazy.
That would shock me in the sense that like we're so overextended at that point. And I mean, like that would be what I mean, then it just goes like this, like if it does this, that is going to be kind of scary, right?
Oh my God. Altcoins would be deader than dead. My God.
Yeah. I mean, I think you get this high taken out, right? I think like you get like one of these or something, right?
Yeah.
And then it might go back down to 13, something like that, right? Like run this by like $500-600. You'll get FOMO, you'll get shorts absolutely obliterate. Like this will be, I don't think it just runs this by like $50. Like it's gonna like go, 14.6, 15K, maybe somewhere around there. Be my guess.
That'd be an epic SFP if it did just slightly run that high with a wick and close.
But it's like, all right, well, at SFP's back down to your.
Yeah, I'm not calling back down to $3,000, but it would be a pretty good short opportunity.
I think when you get below here, right, this 12.6, that would be that it would be interesting to see what happens here because there's a lot of stops right here, right? But there's a lot of people waiting to buy here. Like, so maybe you get that 12.3, 12.5, like,
right.
Area.
So on the downside, like I feel like everybody's watching 12.3, 12.5, which is reasonable, but also always a little bit scary. What would surprise you to the downside? I mean, would you be surprised if we were in the 10s, the 9s, the 11s? I mean, where would you start to worry?
I mean, if you want to use this as a guide, right? Say price did this, came down, right? And then it's, maybe you're bouncing off this trend line. Well, it's still like 12K. I mean, just a rapid move down here to like the mid 11s, you're getting back in below like a really big spot. Like below 11.5, I don't even know why I'm talking about it. It just doesn't seem really that relevant right now.
Always fun to think about it though, because it, gotta be ready.
But it's like, I'm trying to run through in my mind why that would happen, right? There's so much interest in this asset right now, and spot buyers are lined up that like, it's like, I mean, look, like just this whole activity, like the dip gets bought up so quickly, right? So I don't know. I mean, if stocks and like that really hits the fan, the correlation will come back.
Like if we see a global market dump, it'll get ugly, but it might be temporary and bounce again.
Yeah, but like it's just basically, okay, I need to free up capital for whatever reason. Like,
need cash.
So do they sell stocks first or do they sell crypto first? Well, I guess it depends on the person, but it's just capital flows. Like if things get bad, then okay, I need cash, so I sell some Bitcoin, right? It's hard to tell, but I don't see anything near term that's like this like massive move down in Bitcoin. Obviously, you're going to get retraces and stuff, but I mean,
so in your mind, this is definitively bullish. By the dip should continue. It is to me, obviously. I don't think either I've made any secret of that.
Right, especially when you break this, right? Because you've made a higher high on over this, right? So it's like this is just all bullish market structure at this point. I mean, you look at the pattern, right? It's like, okay, this is kind of crazy. Impulse up, consolidate. Impulse up, consolidate. All right, here we have our move down, right? And now we've just ripped up. So to me, it's like maybe you run this, but you're going to consolidate. You're probably going to stay up here. Is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it never happens how you think it will, but I would imagine we touch right below it, kind of where we are now, and then do some sort of bull flag or pennant, or just a cluster of price action. Then eventually it just rips. I would be pretty surprised to see this absolutely rip through at 13,878 right now, but it is Bitcoin.
You'd be surprised?
I would be surprised if we like completely obliterated 13,878 area right now, like, and just went straight to 15 or something. I would love it. And then I would just bid the shit out of of that area, 13,878. But I mean, with where like RSI is at right now, I just think it would be reasonable to see some consolidation under resistance, but never does what you think it will.
Yeah. So it's like here, right? Like this was key, right? This 10, 10.5, right?
That was the area to me, 10.548 for sure.
So we blew through it and we went to 12.5 and we consolidated up here and we came down. It's like we came down lower than 10.5, right? So you get one of the lower than these things, which is going to give you your like probably high 11s. I don't know. It's hard to say. This move and like the sentiment in the market and kind of like the euphoria, like, I mean, I don't think it's like crazy right now, but it could do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't like to say like, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Right. Just kind
me either. I like the possibilities. I just was like, I'm a little surprised that we're sitting at, almost 13.8 right now, to be honest. I mean, not that I thought we'd have any crazy retrace, but I thought, that candle spread on the 3-day you're showing right now it's pretty absurd.
Yeah.
This really crazy. Went.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, your Neo, it's been negative, right? And I guess if you started to see some of this stuff, right? Like you're getting up here on your higher,
Yeah, it's still not there.
right? So it's like, why am I looking to short it if I'm not seeing someone, party being long or short? In this case, longs, like offsides, right? Right? Like you want to see this. That's telling you something, right? So, and this down here, yeah, in hindsight, everything like this. But yeah, I mean, there's no signals yet. And yes, you can get, I mean, as we've seen, the price went from 13.2 to 12.7, gets bid up aggressively. You can have those moves in between all this, but it's like, maybe you're getting 13.3, 13.2, 13.4, right? And then you're going up for your highs here. It's like crazy. I mean, this candle right here. I mean, if this gets bought up and this keeps going up, it's like, okay, maybe do that. I would say here, maybe bid, this if you're trying to scalp, right? You take out some liquidations, you take out this low. This low probably holds. If we're really going to keep going up, it just seems weird that price wouldn't challenge that level given how high it's been so far. The highs.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel like 12.5-ish should be in the future at some point, but what do I know?
Yeah. So, yeah, those are kind of all my thoughts on Bitcoin macro, the fun stuff. But
awesome. So I want to actually like give you an opportunity a bit to talk about your Telegram and your trading course, because I know those are things that are, I mean, I participate, they're awesome, and I think people definitely should know about it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really promote the course that much. We don't
ever.
Right, so it's like, okay, people can think what they want about that. Look, I joined Crypto Insiders, like, man, let's pull up the chart actually when I joined it. I joined it here, like around here, right? So I've been in this group for a while, and I'm not sharing my screen right now, probably.
I can share your screen if you can share it again if you'd like, no problem.
Basically, I have 4,200, like 4,500, somewhere around there. So I joined Crypto Insiders, and I've been in the bull market, I've been in the bear market, and now another bull market, called that. And there was, I don't know, like there's 300 people in there maybe, and I just started sharing some analysis, and I got to know the community pretty well. I've met a lot of really cool people from there. One of them being the founder, Zoran, Captain Cole, and we just kind of hit it off. I mean, he helped me buy some altcoin over the counter, like teach me how to use like the ledger and get on that, because I've just literally been a Bitcoin guy. I never had to actually deal with that stuff. It was Leo too. And it was
I was gonna say, was it Leo? Because I remember that. Yeah.
Leo, and MetaMask, all that stuff. And so I don't know, I've just gotten to know Zorn really well through that whole time. And we share a lot of analysis in that group, and we just wanted to put together something that was part of kind of like starting our business venture, like kind of career together, because I really like working with him. I think finding a good business partner is one of the most important things. I've been part of a lot of startups, and so it's nice to work with someone who has the same drive and mindset, and it doesn't feel like work, right? So we spent a really long time building that course, and it's called Tools of the Trade. So it's toolsofthetrade.com.
I linked it in the description just for everybody who's listening. I threw it down there so you guys can check that out.
Yeah, and it's like 9 months to make, 8 or 9 months, and that's from developing the curriculum, understanding how to like record, use OBS, all these things. So we recorded videos, and it's a 4-part curriculum that's just designed to help people learn to trade, whether it's understanding like basic candlesticks, right? Because everyone starts somewhere. So it's a newer trader, or it could be a more advanced trader. So a lot of liquidity analysis I was going over. The 4th course is called Liquidity Theory. Zorn actually came up with that term like 3 years ago. we just fine-tuned it and put it into a format where people can start to understand the way we look at markets and the way we think price moves and why. And so, yeah, sales have been pretty good. I mean, I would say one thing that, sure, it's $500. I mean, if you think about that being an investment in your trading career and what it is, a small investment, potentially what you can make. But I also think that there's a large element of time that someone needs to really spend on it, that want to learn it. And, you know, it's easy to join a paid group. It's easy to just get asked for a shortcut and, you know, here, this is like what we're going to trade, and you do the same thing. This has to be coming from the person inside saying, I want to spend the time to learn how to look at price, and, you know, I like what these guys are doing. So we just made it a more systematic approach to telling people everything we talk about in Crypto Insiders or on Twitter. Like, if you're really interested in this, here, take the course. And you know, it's like 14 hours of video. And it was really fun to make because it made you check your own trading and mindset. And, you know, we get into a lot of the emotional aspects of trading and, you know, risk management, and also just Zorn's big into meditation. Like, I'm sure people know on Twitter, I love fishing. Like, I need to be doing things, and that just, it's a reset for me. So it goes deeper than just looking at, okay, here's support and resistance, here's Fibonacci. Like, it's really trying to explain the mindset of someone who wants to become, I guess, call it a professional trader. So
yeah, it's so important to have a life outside of trading.
Yeah, I wonder what some people do in this space who are like on Twitter all weekend long, just like talking back and forth. I mean, it's cool. Like, I think,
yeah, they're going to burn out eventually, though. I think it's you also, like, we're a bit older, you know. So
yeah, to be fair,
me older than you.
Yeah. But here we are locked up in our homes because of COVID. So, like, it actually is like this virtual community where, like, we have these friends all around the world that, you know, we talk to every day.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So, yeah, so that's tools of the trade. And, you know, there's some testimonials on the site. I get messages a lot in my Twitter DM saying, like, you've helped me a ton. Like, I really appreciate your analysis. Like, your feed is great because it's this mix of photography and fishing, and there's also a lot of educational content in there with occasional White Claw stuff.
And then I have a comment right here. Very important. It says, Scott, exclamation point. Please tell ISO to stop drinking that mango thing.
So I got tropical Red Bull right now.
Still looks like mango. I think you actually have a mango addiction and not a White Claw and Red Bull addiction, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, it's also nice to get some of that feedback too. Just knowing that you're, like, helping people essentially.
Yeah.
So
love it.
Tools of the trade. Yeah, we created it. It's out there. There's a lot of conversation about it within CI. If people have questions, they can tag at Tools of the Trade. We have our own Telegram. And yeah, I mean, that's something that Zorn and I work pretty hard on. And now we're kind of looking at next steps. What do we want to do from a business perspective on continuing to work with each other? We trade a lot.
I guess you didn't get the memo that if you're a professional trader, you're not allowed to have other businesses if you're on Twitter. You didn't get that? Did you not? Did I not send you the official email? That you immediately become a LARPer and a fake trader if you do anything else besides trade to make money?
So if I'm selling photos, that's just illegal?
No, you're a LARPer now. You're not a trader. That's the rule.
Yeah, this is funny. But if you look, a lot more people are starting to realize that why not monetize something if you have the ability to do it, right?
Of course.
We're all trying to grow our wealth, make money, and just survive. So if you have the means to do it, and, you know, Twitter or just crypto, this audience, like, it's not a crime to monetize something. I mean, yes, if you're scamming people, but if you spend 9 months building, you know, 14 hours of video to help people who want to come into the space and off of an existing community of crypto insiders, and you want to get paid for your time somewhat, that's not a crime.
I just saw someone just commented, selling Pokemon cards okay though, LOL. And honestly, like, I don't know when crypto Twitter became Pokemon selling Twitter, but those dudes are killing it. Like I am not mad at that at all. If you can literally make money selling a cartoon piece of cardboard, and these guys are making more than, it's crazy.
But what sparked the new interest in Pokemon cards?
I have no idea, and I can't pretend to be an expert. I mean, like any FOMO period, whatever. I mean, collectibles obviously always go through their bubbles, I guess. But gee, I mean, I don't know if I have no gauge for how real it is. I mean, I know it's real. People are making money, or if it's just because like all of a sudden a few guys in Twitter became very passionate about it, convinced some other people. So it's become visible to us.
Logan Paul or something, like some of these social media guys,
yeah, and they're buying from guys in the crypto, like JB, Crypto King, Nekos, these dudes that, I mean, they're flying around the country, apparently strapped, carrying a huge cash. It's like Miami Vice, but for complete like cartoon kids from the 90s or something.
People were probably searching like in their houses being like, I had Pokemon cards when I was younger.
Yeah, it's the new, like when I was a kid, my dad always, and all of his friends always talked about how their moms threw away their baseball cards that were like in the attic, and they'd be bajillionaires now. And I think it's kind of the new
baseball cards the other day, and I was like, well, where do I even find the market for this? Like,
dude, I was like a huge baseball card collector. It's what my dad and I did as kids, like really pretty intensely. And so he like wanted to invest, we're talking about like hundreds of dollars, but would buy like wax packs, the like big boxes of the cards to open from like and this was in the mid 80s. I went to sell them recently, like closet full of this stuff, and literally ended up donating it because people were like, I will pay you to burn that and get it out of my store. Because like anything from the 1980s in baseball cards, there was incredible supply and they can't get rid of them. So like we thought it was this great investment. And that's probably, I mean, Pokemon collectors, someone's going to get holding the bag just like I did with my baseball. You're rich.
So my nephew,
if anyone ever asks you if you're rich, you now have proof on camera.
My nephew was like obsessed with Pokemon at one point, and I remember he would ask me to like buy him cards off Amazon just a couple of years ago. It's like, what do you do with these things anyways? And so he had a ton of them, and he gave me this one. It's in Japanese, so, or whatever, it's, I have no idea. I've just
a walrus. I can tell you right now, the very fact that you're touching it with your actual fingers, it probably has reduced the value from 3 cents to 1 cent.
Yeah. I think he looked at his collection and was like, yeah, this is the shittiest card. I'll just give this to my uncle.
I'm sure, but it made you feel special.
But I can't throw it away. Like I can't throw away something like that.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
So I think there was also something else here. Oh yeah. He's got a 3D printer. And so
that's cool.
He made me a camera.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How old is he?
He's 10.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I was gonna say he's advanced.
Yeah, extremely. And this thing took like 4 hours too, which is crazy because it's so small. But yeah, I just remembered I had a Pokemon card from my nephew, and it's
when I was 10, we didn't even have like mobile phones. Nothing. There was no internet.
Yeah,
your nephew's 3D printing. We were like drawing and playing with sticks in the backyard.
That was fishing, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another. Well, that's a whole nother topic. I watched The Social Dilemma recently, and I was like, "This is a scary movie."
Yikes, man! Makes me feel really bad for spending time on Twitter.
I literally was like, this is making me rethink a lot of stuff right now. But also just look at it as like Twitter, social media, all these things in the hands of the right people, they're tools. Like Twitter is a tool for me, and it is for you, obviously.
Sentiment. Yeah.
But even just as a business tool, right?
Yes, of course.
Whatever your audience. But I also look at Instagram, like that's, a photography business for me in the sense that like I can put photos on there and then someone might want to actually buy one, right? So that movie though it confirmed a lot of things that I thought. Like I've always just been like, we're living in the matrix essentially, we're getting controlled here. But it was pretty dark, especially considering some of the people they interviewed and their rules around social media in their own households. They're like, our kids aren't allowed to use them.
And how hard they struggle with enforcing those rules for themselves. I mean, some of those guys were like, I know exactly what they're doing and I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
It's like never get high on your own supply, right? I mean, it's like literally a crack dealer doing crack all day.
It's crazy, man. That movie was, I was just like, wow, that's nuts. I remember I took a week off Twitter like a couple weeks ago. I was just like, I need a break from this. And it was refreshing to come back after it, but it's just, it can suck you in. And like it's something to be very aware of, I think, for a lot of people, because I look at the younger generations and I'm very vocal about TikTok, and I'm like, dude, if you have a daughter and the only thing she's doing is making videos on TikTok of like rap music with explicit lyrics, and she
should end up in clear heels,
14, 15 years old, like the Cardi B song WAP. That was like #1 TikTok song. Like,
what does WAP stand for? It's not good.
I didn't even know what it was, and then someone was like, "Look it up," and I was like, "This is we're not going."
You got like 5-year-old girls doing their thing. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. It's hard with kids to keep them away from that stuff, even when they're. I mean, my kids are 5 and 1-year-olds, no problem. But with a 5-year-old girl, like. Her like couple, she goes to school with like 5 kids. We have this sort of like homeschool thing, and like they're second graders, and she's into whatever those second graders are. And if they have access, she has access, even if we're restricting it.
Like there's someone in my nephew's class who plays, but it was like 3 years ago. He was playing Call of Duty. It's like 7. I was playing shooting video games maybe in 6th or 7th grade. Or 7th grade, I don't even know. Like there also weren't that many. I think the access to all of it now. And like kids are growing up literally with devices in their hands, like glued to them. I didn't have that.
No, it didn't exist. I mean, I had those little like baseball games with 2 buttons that were black and white and stuff that you like play in the car for hours. But then, even the Game Boy was sort of even after my time from like really being a kid. Like I played Nintendo, but we didn't have a Game Boy. By the way, there's someone that's asked a couple times, when are you boys selling your stack? I can tell him, this is to Adam who just asked this. I view like I only trade with a small percentage of my holdings, like 15% generally. So my stack is going nowhere. It's my savings account. It's in like multi-sig cold storage, and I'm hoping that my kids are smart enough to be able to access it when I'm long and gone. So I'm not selling my stack in general.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the chart. It's like, okay, we're here, and who's going to sell here? Like, it's like, it's tough to find the sellers right now you got to break this to find any sellers. Right. Yeah. And then it's like, you spent all this time, right, in this whole range, call it that. If you're breaking out of the range, I mean, if you're just doing that little percentage calculation, it starts to become very real. And the more people who want it, the HODL community is like what keeps the price intact.
Yeah. So Adam, the answer is I have no intention of selling my stack. Like cold dead hands. Like
sure, you can trade it. You can trade a portion.
Trade some, but I want to be exposed for the foreseeable future unless anything dramatically changes. I got to actually get ready to go pick up my child, sort of as we discussed. So everyone, you can find all of ISO, everybody calls them different thing, aka Trip. All the information is in the description, so you can follow them there, join their Telegram, and sign up for tools of the trade. And once again, a reminder also that this was sponsored by Around the X and Voyager, so you can check them out below as well. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if you have any parting words, things you want to say to everyone.
Awesome. I'm always down to do this stuff. It's good to
we'll do this regularly. Like I said, so much better. Like the podcast was amazing, but you can't actually look at a chart during a podcast and discuss what's happening right now and get the visual aspect of it. So I think for traders talking about trading, it's just a suboptimal platform, and this is obviously so much better.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it, man. This was awesome.
All right, do it soon. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Cool, we're done.